Yeah, we just wanted to talk about your video series and also, I guess,
Your
on
website, your
the
things like that, your
on the
former
board
career
we
as a Pitchfork writer, because I don't know how familiar you are with 4chan and specifically the music board on it, but there's this love hate, mainly hate relationship with Pitchfork.
Yeah,
it's
well, you guys need to, first of all, you need to pledge allegiance to opinion and represent.
Well, there's a little
Okay.
saying on 4chan, you're too cool for Reddit and you're not cool enough for opinion.
Hey, Red Rocks. No, look, opinion grew out of the Pitchfork website. It was a website that Ryan, Schreiber put up, and it was a BB board way back then when called PFMS, Pitchfork Media Smackdown, and like that was. I mean, I don't know how many readers Pitchfork had, but like, we were all on this. It was like the dork board. We've always called it the dork board. Every girl, every wife, every fiance that is in any way involved with a male or herself posts on this board has always called it the dork board. It's the weirdest. It's not like I've confirmed this with people, and it's like, oh, no, I'm talking to somebody on the dork board. Anyway,
Well, since we're talking about Mew and opinion, is there a reputation within the music journalistic industry of Mew or 4chan? Because it seems that whenever something big relative to music happens, like, for example, what happened last year with Death Grips and their ARG running it on Mew, and there is no artist besides maybe Grimes that was bigger in 2012 than Death Grips.
in terms of like a hype machine at least
Yeah,
coming
I
out.
guess.
They were releasing information about their albums and stuff like that
Well, they
on there, just
released
kind of
a
dropping it anonymously before anywhere else, and then it kind of moved on to the press from there.
yeah, they were. I mean, they're trying to front run the press because the only move you have as an artist is to front run, the content machines and put something out there that people who aren't agents of this industry can react to before the industry. And that's all. Death Grips is just a big sociological hype experiment. I have absolutely no fucking time for any of their music apart from that first video. I mean, dude, this guy was like a Far Side stoner rap guy cruising on fucking, Sony Handcam tape, talking about blunts and this bullshit. Zach has been around for fucking ever, and he's very strategic, and that's all fine. But the conduct of their band and the things they've done are very fortunate,
oh yeah,
and
no,
like,
I love how
Yeah.
fortunate it is, though. I love that it's this once in a life. It's kind of like Beatlemania. It's this once in a lifetime random event that sort of comes with this hype.
no, and that's fine. And there's no problem with you selecting a target audience that you want to speak to. Like, maybe they respect web boards and 4chan more than they respect the music industry, and more power to them. But at the same time, it's incredibly strategic. And, they were signed to a major label. Uh, the whole idea of the great rock and roll swindle has been around for a long fucking time. And that's the script that they were reading. It's just the great rock and roll swindle. Oh, we got signed to a major label, and then the album cover was my dick. And we told them to go fuck off, man. And like,
Punk rock as
there's,
fuck, man.
I'm sorry, and there's no way that that's not something you're cognizant of in 2010, 11, 12, 13. And, more power to them. It worked. I'm not going to like, it's easy to look at things like that and condescend to them and be like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Or, I understand the context here. That's not what I'm trying to say, because they had the balls and they had the music to do it, and they did it. And good for them.
Yeah,
But they also
exactly.
have a past. They have a
Yeah,
past that doesn't, it's not like that was the first thing they did, is my point. So I take it with a little bit of a nod and a wink.
yeah. It's
And
always hard to imagine Zach Hill being there and being, Zach Hill's always done this. He just works around with a lot of people, does albums with people. That whole, what was it, Nervous Cop with Joanna Newsom, and he just does
yeah, and
he just does these group projects, and suddenly he's in this band now. He's back in a full-on, full-fledged, lineup band that's suddenly going out of their way to do this kind of shit.
well, people forget that Zach is where he is because he was blessed by Primus. I mean, he's a fucking phenomenal artist. I mean, there's no musical question here. The guy is one of the most original, incredibly talented. I'm a drummer. I've been playing drums since I'm fucking 14. And I uploaded a video to YouTube at one point where I tried to play the beat that he played on one of Marnie Stern's songs. Add up the numbers or something like that. I can't remember. But like the guy's a fucking total autodidact, pure, like massive genius of the first order. And you can't take that away from him. And so for me, I'm like, why are you going down this road, this media bullshit, game road where you're just going to game the system and play fucking internet games? Like you stand alone already. It's almost like lowering him in a way to me that he does this thing where like, oh, we don't show up and instead of us performing, there's a fucking sticky note on the kick drum.
I think that's pretty funny because I'm sure like the whole game itself I think was orchestrated by his younger brother. And I met him at one of the shows once. I met him at the merch table. He was doing like all the merch table sets for like their California section of the tour, I guess. And he's pretty cool. He's a pretty cool guy. And they mentioned him before.
Did he film the documentary that they did on YouTube? Is that him?
I don't think so. I think that's Zach. And Zach's a pretty big film buff. He seems to be like the guy who's really into film, and he does these arty films. And I think that's just him doing it.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that. I have there's not a lot of facts surrounding the group. Especially since that whole movie they said they were doing with Robert Pattinson was it's like, oh, it's on. No, it's not. No, Pitchfork, it's not on. No, they're on their website. We're doing it. Shh, don't tell Pitchfork.
That was pretty much the same shit that happened when they did the Joy Division movie and Jude Law was going to play Ian Curtis.
Do you, that's actually, I wanted to ask a bit about, while we were talking about that Death Grip show, a little bit of transition on that. That was in Chicago. And I was thinking about, it was right around Lollapalooza. Because they were supposed to appear at Lollapalooza as well. And you did a video about the old-fashioned Lollapalooza, the touring ones, 1 through 3. And I just wanted to hear what you thought about the direction that sort of shifted in, what Perry Farrell is kind of, where he's taken that as more, I think, of the big ones, like your Coachella, Bonnaroo, and so on. It's one of the more... I hesitate to say, but mainstream, like they take a little bit less risk with their lineups, and it seems to be kind of like the biggest kind of corporate music festival example I can think of. And I guess to wrap it up, to be more specific, what do you think about the explosion of music festivals in the past 10 years or so, and the hugeness and the corporate influence on them and all that?
Okay. Well, the first thing is, if you want to go full circle, a lot of the shit I've been saying in the Pose magazine interview and in the last video, a lot of this really rolls up to one guy, Mark Geiger. Mark Geiger is a senior level exec at William Morris Endeavor. William Morris Endeavor and the William Morris Agency is Rahm Emanuel's brother. It's the guy It's the guy the character Ari on Entourage is modeled after, because he owns that company. Mark Geiger is rumored to be a silent partner in Pitchfork. He is publicly documented as having been their agent since late 2009. And, this is like massive, multi-god level people. And that's okay, because Mark, he made his bones. He was like a concert promoter at UCSD, UCal, San Diego. My wife is an alum of UCSD. What's up? Mark was booking Ian Hunter and fucking crazy obscure British bands that could not get on the radio. The guy started out on the right path, and then when the internet happened, he started Artist Direct, and he got very kind of consumptive about consuming the internet. But before he did that, Mark Geiger did Lollapalooza. He's the reason it happened. So, as much as I shit on how this machine is like using music as a way to just completely fuck kids and stuff ads in their faces and decide that, oh well, if you like this Pitchfork band, you're going to see an ad for a Lexus or Absolute Vodka. The information regime that they own right now is despicable, but a lot of the things that Mark Geiger's done in his career are pretty fucking respectable, and Lollapalooza I put right at the top. because the idea of getting Jane's Addiction, Nine Inch Nails, fucking Body Count, you know, the Jesus and Mary Chain, Susie and the fucking Banshees to play massive stadiums in 1991 was insane, because the record industry controlled all of that activity at that time, because they made money, because they had a barrier to force consumers to pay them, which was physical media. You know, the first three Lollapaloozas were fantastic. But what happened was that they were so profitable, despite the fact that like half the bands OD'd backstage at the fucking show. But Butthole Surfers, like half that band died in one show. You know, Navarro OD'd repeatedly, so did Perry. But the point is, you're reaching out to a circle of bands and a whole genre and a whole lifestyle that was not being serviced in mainstream American commercial life, on MTV, on any of it. And they made this incredible festival, and they made a point when you didn't even have to make this point of including, you know, like politically active booths and, you know, Riot Girl stuff, zines. They had the Jim Rose Circus and all this stuff. Their outreach was completely admirable at that time. And those shows were fantastic. And then after the third one, it just went south because it became about trying to make money. Now, as far as the comment, I'm sorry I'm rambling, but as far as the comment about sponsorship, a music festival is not something I have a problem with Microsoft or fucking Nike or anybody sponsoring, because it's a real event where people go and have social experiences and see each other. And the advertising shares the same physical space. That to me is rational. There's money paid to go do something, hear something, feel something, be somewhere, and have a memory of something that would not exist without those sponsors. And I completely celebrate the Pitchfork Festival. I can't even believe they had the balls to do a festival in France and Paris and Europe. That is fucking badass. That's great. But the thing is, that's not related to what they do as a website. It's what they do as a festival promoter.
I've been to the Pitchfork Festival in Chicago, because I live near there twice now, and yeah, it is very interesting the way there's a connection between, you know, bands that they've reviewed well and that they've given best new music to and so on, and who shows up, but it doesn't necessarily, it feels a little bit disconnected from the site. And I think
that's exactly right. And that's hugely important, because they could have done that festival. In fact, they did that festival before they were a profitable ad silo. Now, I quit that site in like late 2004. The first festival was 2006. Pitchfork was not in the black. It was not hooked up with, you know, PR agents and publicists and any of that bullshit. They were selling ads, and they were selling them at a pretty good clip. But, you know, the festivals are not because of the, you know, corporate commingling of Pitchfork with advertisers. The festivals would have happened anyway. And they did. And they could have kept happening, and they still would have got massive sponsors because they had influence. We did have influence. I mean, this is like 8-7 years ago when I left, but it had influence at that time. And that's what fueled those first two festivals. From that point on, it became a question of furthering the whole cycle of year-round, what PR companies, whose bands are getting fed into this thing, and it all culminates in that festival. Because the bands that you help break, you pay them nothing, so that you can pay R. Kelly and Bjork to become your headliner.
Yeah, this year's lineup especially was really interesting in that way, because the headliners were huge as comparison, I think, to previous years, but the underbill was not so huge. So there wasn't very much of a middle ground. As we got Bjork, we got R. Kelly, and, you know, a lot of smaller bands that probably got paid almost nothing.
Right, and that's just, that right there is like a total fucking regime of controlling what's going on to your own ends.
Because the same thing happened at Coachella too. This last year, it was a lot of just really big names on the radio everywhere.
Well, the thing with Coachella is Coachella books about 800,000 bands. I mean,
That's huge.
It's like, it's just a big fucking bar fag of corporate sponsorship, advertisements, get human beings where they can look at my logo.
Oh, and the county.
Coachella has never been anything different. Coachella is a music festival. It's not a website that seeds and convinces people of a certain vision of what's going on in music. Brought to you by Absolute, Converse, fucking all this stuff. Coachella is just a music. It's just a music festival.
Yeah, and they have to pick some big names because who are they going to bring in the large people to see the small people?
It's Glastonbury. It's Big Day Out. It's the classic music festival way to be. The Reading Festival. It's all the same. That's where there's this weird fucked up thing with the Pitchfork Festival, where they spend their whole year as a brand defining what it means to be a fan of their brand and pay attention to the certain circuit of bands and musicians, and then boom, it's just
now they're in the festival.
It's the way that it distributes the sponsorship, the PR campaigns, the friends, hey, what's up, Lifeford FPR? You're awesome. Hey, Heathcliff, what's up, dude? I had a great time with you having dinner the other night. It's just like they're way too close to this shit, and they're behaving in a way that is just indefensible.
And the phony exclusivity that you once alluded to.
Well, no, the phony exclusivity, it's not a question of being phony. It's a question of it being negotiated. These are negotiated PR campaigns.
That's something I wanted to touch on with Pitchfork that I thought more recently has become a bigger deal as the site has gone into a more, I guess, more respected and legitimate as like a publication is the way that they do reissues and reviews of older albums and the best new reissues and the 10 out of 10s. Because you talked at length about the Disintegration Loops and the 10 out of 10 review for that, and I feel almost that Pitchfork in a way will they can, every time an album gets reissued by some company, it's a chance to just get free press, because if it's even, it's not even that old, like for example Donuts by Jay Dilla got reissued last year, I think. That album's not that old, but it's going to get 9.5 or 10 or above and almost canonized 5 years or so after it's been released.
That's not something that I think Pitchfork needs to be held accountable for. That's a pattern in rights holders, people who own the rights to music. They love to reissue albums because the act of reissuing them creates a promotional campaign. Now, I did an interview with the Daily Swarm where I talked about this extensively relative to Interpol. When Matador had Matador had this IFC sponsored, I don't even know what it was, a Q&A thing, I don't know, with Amanda Petrosic, where they reissued Interpol's Bright Lights, Turn on the Bright Lights, 10 years after the fact, because it was convenient, but it was also a way to generate second stage press for a catalog album that was legitimately very important to a certain subset of people, but was not commercially, a big deal. And the reissue cycle you're talking about, that's nothing to do with Pitchfork. That's to do with people who own the rights to these albums and can't wait to have another excuse to promote them and put them out again. And every label is following this pattern. Forget indie bands.
Rolling Stones have been doing it for years.
The Cure. This is not a new thing. This is getting people to buy the same thing twice. And that's just a totally ingrained marketing strategy that has taken on an absurd degree of collapse in terms of what it takes to, warrant a reissue. And that's what the point is about the Disintegration Loops and Turn on the Bright Lights and, I don't know what. Did they do an anniversary reissue of The Strokes' This Is It?
Probably not yet, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I want to say they did, but I don't think so.
No, they didn't. And that's the most important album that's probably been released in rock and roll in the last fucking 20 years, since Nevermind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like huge in terms of success, commercial land, underground and all that other stuff. It's hit a lot of target audience, and it's big, and it's sold a lot, and it's probably
But
still copied to death.
their style, everything about the Strokes was like, yes, oh yeah, oh my god, everybody went crazy for that shit because it was fucking undeniably on point. That shit was genius, and it wasn't strategy. It was like, we're gonna just choose our influences and we're gonna love them and go for it, and they did it, and they fucking destroyed. That was the last real band we probably had.
What do you think? What do you think happened to the Strokes in terms of?
Well, they're rich. They were all,
Yeah, let's say Julian
They were-
Casablancas is very famous for being already rich as hell and having a partner with a ton of money.
You don't have to like spend a lot of time figuring out how you're gonna keep this going, and you're already worth like fucking $35 million. Do you want to make another Strokes record? I don't know.
Because I mean, yeah, I think along the way there were a few singles here or there, a few tracks that like kind of recaptured sort of the feeling everyone was looking for, but
Well,
it's never the same.
I thought that the Angles record was the best record they ever did.
Was that
I
the
mean,
2011 one?
Yeah, nobody gives a
Yeah.
shit about it. I thought it was the best record they ever did, but nobody gave a shit because the Strokes were old and over, and they were an SNL digital short joke. But anyway, you know what, guys? We really need to talk about some female bands.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna get accused of sexism if we don't.
I actually kind of did. I did want to talk about that a little bit, because we were talking about yeah, and people who follow Pitchfork are mostly the people who are bothered by Pitchfork. There's a lot of talk and a lot of offense or ire pointed at Lindsay Zolids because of
The overly feminist
I think
angle.
she's a pretty good writer, but
Whoa, wait.
I'm not saying I think she's overly feminist, but that's the usual term most people go for.
What? Why? You're talking about my girl. I don't know what.
We know that's the first thing we thought of. This is gonna be like, oh man, Chris is gonna be mad when we mention that people don't like Lindsay.
I like her. I like her
Who the
writing.
hell- Wait, who the hell doesn't like Lindsay Zolad? She's like the
There's
most.
people. There's people out there, man. It's
She's
hard
like the
to
most.
believe.
Dude, she's like the most neutral fucking good writer. Like, are you kidding me?
I know that's why I
Who's ever said
enjoy
a bad thing?
It's
I
to get over the shock and awe here.
I think
Who's ever said a bad word about her? I've never heard. Who is it?
not anyone
Random anonymous
with a
on
significant
4chan.
name, just random people. Yeah, but I
Well,
think
then fuck random people, man. What the fuck? That's bullshit. That's not something to stand on and say that people are saying stuff about her. They're not. Everyone I know champions her, and it's not just her. There's tons of like awesome female writers who don't need to make everything a fucking snare to catch you in the sexism trap or you're mansplaining. Fuck that shit. She has never played that game.
Right.
She's had every opportunity to do that, and anyone of her stature has. She's never done that shit. That's the wrong name to bring up here. I'm sorry. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
the first thing
fine.
I was gonna say is you have to remind Chris that people don't actually read the reviews; they just look at the score.
yeah, that happened. I mean, well, I think there's a general perception, and this is probably almost as a way that the editing staff works. But a lot of people kind of get this idea that it's like, oh, okay, if it's Savages, if it's Lord or Speedy Oritz or whatever that's coming out this year, it's like, oh, this is the one, we're going to give it to her because this is like the feminist one, which I think is unfair.
No, it's not fair because how many women are fucking getting a fair shake in music? Should their music be fucking judged by men? I'm very happy that Pitchfork has got a much stronger stable of female writers than it did when I was there to properly evaluate socially, in terms of gender politics, in terms of everything to do with women in music. It's imperative that you have not just one piecemeal, satisfactory female writer on staff. You need a multitude of female perspectives because you've already got a multitude of male perspectives.
Well, the thing is, Lindsay's the famous one. She's the one everyone knows. I've read a ton of articles from the other girls on the staff.
Carrie Batten? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I
Come
forgot.
on, dude. Kristen Sage Rockerman was there in the
Okay,
fucking.
yeah, no, I'm not that
She was
familiar
there.
with everyone on the writing staff though.
Well, if you want to start talking about this stuff, you should be, man. Come on.
I'm not the one who brought it
Pitch.
up. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna try and chime in with things that I don't know. I'm just
Well,
going
I'm
off
just
on.
look. All I'm saying is the best thing to me about Pitchfork with respect to this argument is they have never, until they hired the people that I recently talked about, they have never played the gender card, and none of their reviews reek of the gender card and developing gender controversy. The women that they have on staff writing about records, not just female records, are incredibly level-headed with respect to the fact that a lot of people are going to read this, not just my friends on Tumblr who have a checklist of traps that you can fall into so I can call you a mansplainer or a sexist or this or that. They're not petty like that. They don't walk around with a fucking card that says, this is how you're allowed to talk about women or men in music. They're very fucking well-rounded people. And I have a lot of respect for that. And I'm sorry, I got to reiterate that.
No, I agree. I think that it's interesting. Well, the way that, especially with the rise of Tumblr, that like there has been a certain a
Anti-feminism
backlash to
sort of
that kind of
movement.
attitude, the mansplaining or what have you. So that creates an unfairness to. There's still a lot of work to be done in this kind of area with getting more female perspectives and
Reasonable female perspective. We're not going on the extremist or the complete opposite of the women who I don't know, support the mansplaining argument. I don't know.
or
Well,
having
no, but
the tokenism on the other end.
I mean, that's why people are so ecstatic and have been so supportive of Rookie Mag, because not only are they trying to champion well-rounded female perspectives, they're trying to say young female perspectives are getting totally fucking ignored. Lindsay and Carrie, these are like established people who have been around the whole game for a while. But Rookie took it a step further, the right step, and said, you know what? I'd like some what if we had some straight up biased, angry, young female perspectives? What if we just actually acknowledge that exists in this culture?
I think that's fun.
They've done a fucking awesome job because the editors are old enough to be like, you're sort of ripping and ranting here, and they work with the contributors to arrive at intelligent perspectives. That shit's not happening at Complex, at Spin Media, at fucking Grantland. These are all boys clubs, dude. You don't even know how bad the culture is at these fucking sites. It's really fucking reprehensibly awful. It's either sexism or it's classism in the sense that, oh, I'm your editor and I saw this piece and I have a few comments on that. What? Shut the fuck up. The piece is fine. You have to say something because that's your role, right? You're the editor. The piece is fine. Shut up. This whole thing of hierarchy within publications is so fucking poisonous because all you're doing is barfing out internet content. You don't have a subscription base. You don't have Circ. You have nothing. You're trying to create noise, and yet you're trying to treat it like it's this same cosseted, well, we're heading up to our pub date, and how are the prints looking? Are we ready to go? The mock is a little soft. I really want to see more of this. They're still trying to pretend that dialogue is relevant.
Yeah. So, well, how would you explain? I suppose the way that I want to touch on the editing more because I find that's really interesting. Especially in regards to Pitchfork or a lot of these other sites that have sprung up in its wake. That
Wait, sorry, one sec.
Sure.
I want to interject one thing. These sites have not sprung up in Pitchfork's wake. They have been instituted in Pitchfork's wake because Pitchfork was an obviously popular site. So venture capitalists took a huge money shit to get in the game.
Right. No, it's a small change of words, but it makes an important distinction. I suppose the other sites that were created that have come around since Pitchfork has become such a sensation in terms of internet music criticism. But to get to it, I mean, do you get there's a sense of that they're still, especially I suppose you could say these venture capital invested ones are trying to emulate the old structure of what a print magazine would do with the hierarchy and the editing staff.
Absolutely. It's just it's mainlining PR campaigns. I said it in my video. That's all it is. You know, it's back channel, back room bullshit where your pal at fucking whatever the fuck PR.com, you know, owes you a favor or gave you early access to this band. I mean, this is fucking Bon Jovi shit.
Don't say Bon Jovi on the internet over here. Some bad news happened one time.
Oh, that was...
Wait, I'm sorry, what? Did you say Bad Medicine?
No, it's
Yeah.
bad news.
I love that song.
There was a really infamous post where
Someone said if I
this-
see someone say Bon Jovi one more time, I'm gonna blow up a building, and then immediately after the Boston bombings coincidentally happened.
and it was a big deal. It was like, whoa, how did because someone said Bon Jovi right afterwards, of course, because if you say that, someone's gonna say Bon Jovi, and then there's 1,000 replies on that one post of, oh, what have you done?
You have this great subculture I don't know about. You know what? I could never deal. Here's a funny story. I work in IT.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay. I have in the past worked for really fucking obscenely wealthy trading desks at various institutions. I left that because I couldn't deal with the stress. And because they want you to bring a sleeping bag to work and never leave, and if their BlackBerry or their iPhone isn't working, they'll throw it at you. I don't have time for that. One of the trading firms I worked at, fuck it, I'll just say it. Harvard Management Company. When I was working for them, I'll never forget this. I was walking the trading desk, and one of the Forex traders is sitting there, and he's talking, pedantically about his bullshit prob and stat nonsense that, confirms his grip on reality and how he's going to execute his trades. And I look over, and his trading assistant is nodding at him, and he has fucking 4chan open on his fucking computer on like the 7th of his 8 monitors. I was just like, it's a fucking virus. It could have been opinion, it could have been anything, but you get addicted to these forums, because you have a reputation and familiar people that you can bounce stuff off of. Now, I'm not a 4chan guy. I hate the way the site looks. I hate the way it works. I've never been able to deal with it.
It's very old-fashioned. That's for sure.
Opinion is very basic, and it's always been a PHPB board, and it's like easy to navigate. And I bop in from time to time. And today, when all the bullshit was going on around my video, I checked in there, and I was like dicking around with the people that I've been talking to since fucking 2001. Like on the same fucking message board. But like when I look at 4chan, I'm just like, who the? It's like there's a mental distinction between the people who can like go for 4chan. I'm sorry, man. I don't. No,
everyone's just a bit crazy, as you're saying.
I don't have that gene.
We know.
It probably comes with an age gap thing.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too.
I think opinion predates 4chan.
Oh, it does. That's the thing. It's an age gap thing. We're talking about people born in the 90s.
I got you. No, it's true because like everybody my age, and I'm 38, who looks at Reddit is like, is this worth going through? I can't. I don't
like Reddit's layout at all. I think it's a mess.
The big thing with 4chan is that it's really, really fast, and so you sacrifice the ability to have an extended conversation with someone over the course of a couple days or sometimes hours. But that's what keeps people coming back, is that there's just constantly new content and replies shuffling in, because once it falls far down enough the board, it gets pushed off and gone forever, and something new takes its place.
You guys have a lot more in common with Pitchfork than you think.
Yeah, I know. That's the sad thing.
Yeah, I remember you related something in your videos where you said the PFMS forums were basically the place where you go to complain about reviews and have your emotional freakouts, and that's what Mew is.
It's
yeah, and if I could more conveniently vanity search it, and find out what you're saying about me, I would. But I get all these pop-ups of like dog face and all this fucking. I don't need your memes, dude. I'm good. Like, what the fuck?
That's actually a big controversial problem right now, because there's a thing of weird board culture ideal that people always are just going to go there and try and start a new stupidly ironic meme, and it's become the ironic posting on the board has become so rampant. It's just
All right,
not
can we
ironic
just-
anymore. It's
Here, look.
predictable sarcasm.
Here's something you don't know. I started Rickrolling
Oh, you
Oh,
did.
really?
before anybody ever did it. We were doing it on Opinion. Me and Bad Hat and Spartacus. We used to reply to posts with the text, because you couldn't post YouTubes back then, or
Yeah.
links to YouTubes. We would reply with a picture of a giant grouper fish, and under it we would write "Never gonna give you up." We fucking started that shit, and we got no credit for it.
Oh,
if
man.
you look on Know Your Meme, it's just like, you guys are a joke. You don't actually know the meme. We started that shit. Fuck you. If I'm gonna throw down with you right now as a boarder, fucking Rickrolling is our shit. You stepped on our shit. You fucking co-opted our shit, and you are second generation nobodies, man.
Man. But we just got put in our place right now, guys. Everyone should feel bad listening to this.
I think that's one of the things that's really interesting. I think one of the big appeals to me that keeps me coming back to it, though, as well as the way, even though it's one big site, and to most people in the media who are barely familiar with it, it's like 4chan, and the most popular thing is the random board and all the teenagers on there who are, like, saying controversial racist stuff or whatever and causing big stir.
Homophobic, sexist.
Yeah, the ability to do this on 4chan and post like young girls and stuff, I can't deal. It's like, fuck that. I'm sorry.
But that's been, I mean,
That never
The clean-
happens really outside of that board.
yeah, that's the thing
They've
that's
got the
really
safer work
interesting.
boards that don't allow any pornography whatsoever,
That-
which is a
that-
good thing.
that I think is really interesting about it is there's a drastic shift in culture from board to board on the same site. Like the music board is, I would say overall, even though, like I said, there's people who are going to hate on Lindsay Zola, it's mostly people are pretty sympathetic to feminist views. They're pretty left leaning and of that sort of ilk. And then you go on like the politics board or the random board or some of the other ones, and it's like people are like super. There's like racism and sexism and like hardcore, like almost like regressive, conservative stuff. And so it's really interesting to see how hugely different the cultures can be just from
Right.
what the subject matter is.
To try and return this to like a good rational conversation. When I was in college in the mid 90s, we were one of the first campuses that ever had the internet. Skidmore College was wired for Cat 5 in every dorm room in 1993.
Whoa.
Yeah, what's up, Persian Kitty? We were way in front as a college on this, and that was really brilliant. But the reason I bring this up is that while I was in college, before the internet was much more than like Pine and Emacs, I had a professor who said, this is going to lead to the most medieval situation in the history of society, intellectually, since the medieval period, because it will allow you to selectively align with various viewpoints in various arenas where those viewpoints are shared. The internet is the greatest grantor of delusion and reinforcement of that delusion that has ever existed. You can think whatever you want, and if it's that important to you to think it, you can find people who think the same way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That is like something I have been thinking about and have been taught since 1994.
But yeah, this is perfect because this is something I wanted to touch on, because that's taken, I mean, in almost every sphere of the media, that's become sort of an issue because of the internet. If you talk about just like mainstream, like regular news on,
Fox.
like Fox, whatever you want to talk about, it's caused, everything's been split into a niche such that people don't get their news from three sources that you can trust to actually force people to look at a different perspective. They can instead find the one that tells them what they would like to hear.
Right. So you have a confirmation society. You don't have an actual syllogistic critical reasoning society. You have an annotating confirmation society that thinks it's okay to proceed down this path because someone else is already walking it. That is the most fucked up thing about the internet that nobody is talking about. It's just keep replaying that sentence for like 3 hours instead of posting this.
All right, yeah, that's a good.
Well, that's
make sure to-
because in
we'll turn it
relation
into a
to
meme and co-opt it on somewhere else.
in relation
sure.
to music.
Yeah, and oh no, but sell it to Mountain Dew because they're really into original thought.
Thanks, Mount Dew.
All right. One thing, yeah. Continuing on what we were talking about, confirmation in the media. People, I think, especially, I mean, just everyone, regular people will kind of lament, oh, it sucks that they don't show music videos on MTV anymore. And I think that's kind of silly because why would they when there's YouTube, you know, and there's way more, it's easier to access.
In a video. He has a video all about that.
All right,
I don't think anybody's actually said that since like 2002. I mean, come on.
Well,
MTV has been reality television since The Real World premiered in 1990, whatever, when I was a kid.
Right. It's pretty much people being nostalgic, I guess, about MTV when they were a kid or whatever. But what I wanted to ask, do you think that continues that whole trend though with media, and that because the internet has made it such that in regards to music, people can look for exactly what they want, and there's MTV or things like that would be a way of showing someone something that they wouldn't have necessarily sought out otherwise. Like, you're not going to be exposed to more different kinds of music than what you're used to unless you explicitly want to look for it.
Well, okay. So this is a definitely fucked up real issue, which is that the noise, and I'm going to refer back to someone I refer back to often, a British writer named Paul Morley. He wrote a number of pieces and whatever, but for me, the most important thing he crystallized was the concept of the noise of pop. So the noise of pop is what people respond to. And if you don't know, if you're not presented with a sufficient platter of options to respond to, you've lost the ability to really, truly navigate the whole surface of pop music. And what's happened is, because of this whole medieval thing I talked about, the siloing of affinity, if you think tape labels and noise music are too difficult, you just click away. Or, you know, you're only interested in keeping tabs on the up and up. So you go to Pitchfork and you look at what's getting trending, best new music, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You can minimize your engagement with music to a click and be as on top of what is the consensus version of good music as anyone else. So these ideas of, like, you know, boosterism, of, you know, knowing about a million bands and being so informed, all these ideas go out the window because there's no effort involved. If music is information, we have the internet, everybody's got it. You can't distinguish yourself based on your taste anymore. You distinguish yourself based on your selection. And that, to me, is like truly fucking powerfully awful. You used to have to make an effort to distinguish yourself from the avalanche of promoted commercial consensus pop music. You don't have to make any effort anymore. You just pick and choose. It's a buffet. And if you pick and choose things that are difficult, then you'll run with a stream of people who are like-minded. And there you go. You can see the fucking line, you know? That's your
You're back
stream.
in the loop of, you know, delusionalism.
It's not.
That's
it's
a
not
word.
A delusion. It's not a delusion. It's just you can elect to belong to anything you want to belong to by clicking on it.
Yeah.
You don't have to like wear a shirt or get your ass kicked or go to a show with people who are like, you don't fucking belong here, you poser. You don't have to deal with any of that. You can just be like, I'm into fucking goth. I'm into fucking Katy Perry. I'm into Kitty Pryde. I love Kanye West. You know, like, you can just do whatever the fuck you want. Now, I wrote about this shit like fucking 5 years ago. I said the same things I'm saying right now. But nobody heard it because I did it on my own. And now all of a sudden, because I've named names, everybody wants to hear what I'm saying. That to me is really the tragedy here. Because
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
People are using the sensationalistic aspect of me saying X magazine and X writer is selling out music, when I've been saying our behavior is selling out music for fucking years and getting no credit for it.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, part of the reason why we brought you here is because I really fucking love the videos. I really do. I love your Duran Duran thing. I actually had to show that to my dad and everything like that.
Thank you so much, dude. Thank you.
And I wanted to give you some more publicity, I guess.
Pissed off at me. Everybody who's like mad or whatever, most of them have been like, yeah, I know. Well, the Duran Duran thing and the Boy George thing were great. And the shoegaze thing was great. And I know that this is the one thing.
Because I fucking love, like, Alien Sex Fiend. I fucking love Alien Sex Fiend. No one fucking talks about Alien Sex Fiend.
Yeah, Cherry Group, baby. Cherry Red. No, it's like, I'm not going to do another one of these videos. I'm not out here to burn people down and just piss on everyone's fucking, I'm just saying the whole thing behind what you're doing is invalid. And I'm going to move on now. I'm done. And I'm going to do another shoegaze video just to warm it up and give you a little fucking Cool Whip on top of the sundae. And then, I've got a bunch of other topics I want to talk about. And they're all totally agnostic, historical, musical topics. But, when I did the first series, I did like 4 or 5 videos where I was like, what the fuck are we doing, guys? And I followed the same template here. I felt like I have like 4 or 5 ideas that should help me, get going and put out videos every week or two and whatever. But I was like, well, I gotta step back in and reintroduce myself. And somehow the way I've reintroduced myself by saying the same fucking things I've been saying all along, but, using a very recent example that's not even a month old in a major music publication, people are selectively assigning all of these checkbox fucking, candy ass politically correct things and just trying so hard to arrive at a justifiable conviction of me that they can just not deal with what I'm saying. Oh, he's sexist. He's condescending. You're bullying me.
Cyberbullying, is it real?
Not fucking. None of them are dealing with what I'm saying. They're escaping from what I'm saying because they're guilty.
Well, that was a pretty.
That's a great way to end that sentence.
Defense. I think it's really, really fascinating, and the stuff you're touching on is sort of, I think, we talked a lot about the internet and how it started when it started to blow up. In the late 90s, early 2000s, I think there was this sense of like, this is amazing. You can find whatever music you want. You can and it was all about the positives and all the new doors it opened. And then creeping in now, we're kind of realizing there are ramifications of all this that we didn't really think about right away. And now we're here and we need to think about them.
And that's why you have things like the Future Music Coalition. You have the big fight they had about native advertising, nested advertising, distinctions between the ethical implications of particular types of advertising. People are upset about how quickly money lets you dictate what you're allowed to see and what your interest in particular things means that you'll see, means you'll see these ads. And it's pretty fucked up how they're using the internet to take attention, captive audiences, and sculpt their perception of reality. I'm not the guy who's going to take this out to like a fucking Matrix, fucking, what's his face, the roommate of the Opinion Border, Silk Road. I'm not the guy who's going to take this out to the like fucking crazy tinfoil level and talk about how humans are being corralled by this shit, because that's not my beef. I'm smart enough and old enough to not fucking care about that. I know the trades I make. I pay Verizon for internet service. Okay. But nobody who is young and excited and looking for music to be in their car and help them escape from their fucking horrible job, they don't understand that that whole thing has been fucking totally held hostage, and it continues to be held hostage by massive fucking corporations who fund the websites that give you new music. And I want to say something real quick that I tweeted. Back when you had a check there, you had checks and balances. Record companies had a medium they could use to extract your interest financially. Records, tapes, CDs. They don't have that anymore. They're fucked. When they had that, they could use the profits from that to tell the internet. And back then that meant radio stations and back then that meant magazines and alternative radio stations and people who were aligned against them and who were saying, you're bullshit. Well, the record labels had money from the sale of albums to say, I think you guys are really sad and fuck you. And we're going on tour. And we're going to see what the kids think. And then they go on tour and they sell out. And they make fuckloads of money. And they circumvent the market information regime of magazines and critics and tell them to eat shit. So that's a really good balance. Even if it results in you listening to Bon Jovi, it's the right way. It's the way things should be. You don't have the opportunity to exert leverage from a musical standpoint anymore. And that's fucking wrong. And we should boycott this.
I think also there's almost, with advertising and marketing, the way these corporations handle this, that the way they're targeting people kind of makes like a self-fulfilling prophecy of what their demographic is. They say, well, this is something we expect that this demographic will like, and they push it at them. And so it sort of almost limits, even in their own way, that they could make more money of pushing it at other demographics that they might not expect would like it, because they're trying so hard to pigeonhole everyone into groups of,
that is a brilliant point, and it completely dovetails into what I just said, because that's what hair metal was. That's what overconfidence in your control results in. It results in you saying, Kiss with no makeup, Kicks, fucking Slaughter, damn Yankees. We're going to tell you this is what music is. And you're going to get so pissed off that you're going to buy more Nirvana records. That's what happened. That's going to happen again. And the thing that really fucking bothers me is that these websites, they're promoting like liberal arts kids with lots of like sound politically correct viewpoints who want to tell you that they've been listening to hardcore since they were 5. They're promoting this kind of like lib arts thing. What's the countervailing action to like unseat a musical environment that is based on just completely syllogistic, exclusionary terms? It's much more dangerous. It's going to result in something where people are doing things for reasons that are like pretty not okay, just to not participate in this crap.
All right. Well, I think we should. That's a good note to end on.
You want to plug in the website real quick?
Right. Yeah.
I don't care.
Okay.
All right,
well,
then.
Whatever.
If you're gonna find whoever this guy is, you don't know who he is. Well, you find him yourself. Go ahead.
I'm kick-ass. Look me up.
All right. Yes.
Google Kick-Ass, and you'll probably find the movie. Anyway, thank you so much for spending time to do this interview with us.
Guys, this was great. I really appreciate it. Like, it was a really good talk, and I think everybody here was like-minded about, like, let's not go down too far down one road. And, like, because, I mean, for me, it's been front of mind, because I've been getting so much shit on on Twitter and Tumblr from people who want to like assign me these values that are, you know, predetermined to be valid reasons to like, you know, invalidate someone. And it's just it's so fucking lazy. And I feel like this was a pretty good rounded thing. Yeah, it was a bunch of dudes, but we also, you know, we dealt with some of that shit. And it's just like, have the patience to like hear a dialogue and a conversation out and not fucking indict people based on one sentence or one action. There's way too much of the shit. People are so fucking psyched to just be like, yep, done, and find an excuse to not deal with your argument. And I'm just like, I was really optimistic that this was going to be an avenue for me to like flesh that out, and it totally has been. And
I mean, just explained how 4chan works in general.
Yeah. But, you know, look, like the young woman that I interviewed on Impose, that was like the kind of like, you know, huge peak of this thing in terms of like people freaking out. I mean, even she, who was like not that psyched on what I've done, at least she listened. I mean, she didn't frame me, she didn't fry me. And you know, you guys have a lot of interests and angles on this that are like really convenient for me. But even then, we went down roads where we're like, let's just fucking show some respect to the entire argument. So thanks.
Well, thank you. I mean, you talk a lot in your videos too about like, well, the kids out there today, we're the kids, like we're all around 20 or so. So it's really interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I just think this entire kind of dialogue. So.
And personally, I just have to say thank you, because I've been watching your videos since you threw up those Duran Duran videos, and you know, I kind of like the way you speak, the way you portray yourself, and just put your opinion out there. I really kind of idolize it in a way. I mean,
look, dude, all that shit I know and all that shit I've read, that was my choice, and so that's my knowledge to do whatever I want with it.
When I show my dad those videos, my dad's like, I know all this. I'm like, yeah, but it's good to see that someone else knows it. That's not you.
That's awesome. No, and it's just like these aren't stories that these websites that are fed in and tied to this PR chain are ever going to think is like going to get hits. But look what happens. The people who watch this stuff, the people who've watched my videos and reacted to them, they're the biggest alpha number one people you want as an advertiser, but only I'm getting them.
Well, yeah, it's a good filter list to have on your hits there.
Go, baby. I'm gonna sell all your IPs to fucking. I'm gonna sell them to ComScore so they can track your ass more definitively.
Oh nice. Man,
you guys are fucked. I've been logging all this. You're fucked.
Oh damn.
Also, call the NSA.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that you were going to say? I seriously appreciate it. It was a fucking blast talking to you, and I really look forward to the end result. Please let me know what it turns out to be.
All right.
No problem.
Thanks a lot.
All right, later.
Bye.
Later, man.